Well, this is the best thing I've seen all week. I know Piers Morgan is a bit of a political flip-flopper, but nothing prepared me for how blunt he was on British television just a few weeks after the election, setting the record straight for why Donald Trump actually won. Take a look at this for yourself and you'll know exactly why I say that.
But the idea that you all have to be stifled, censored, that's why I called my show Uncensored. No. And you should all be able to disagree with each other. You and I should be able to go to the pub, have a few pints of the black stuff, argue about everything, and then stay friends. Funny enough, Emily and I are like that. We have terrible dinner parties where we end up shouting at each other, and then we can't wait to do it again. That's how society should be.
That's how society should be. It's not how society is.
No.
You have kids. Deep down, do you not worry about the world that Donald Trump is going to leave your kids and my kids?
No, I don't. I would have been more worried if Kamala Harris had won, because it would have sent a message that this whole woke, as Elon Musk calls it, the woke mind virus. Now, woke has got a bad rap, rightly. What it used to be was raising awareness for social and racial injustice. By that criteria, I'm woke. But that's not what it is anymore. What it's become is a kind of new form of fascism, where people who identify as woke, they want to dictate how everybody else, how they dress, how they speak, what they find funny, the jokes that they can laugh at, the heroes that they can revere, the books they can read, the movies they can enjoy. That is fascism. It's the very thing that they profess to hate most.
To be honest, we here in America were having these discussions at least 5 years ago, but I think I know why that is. However you define modern wokeism or identity politics, it is now becoming an American export to other English-speaking democracies like the UK and Australia. That's why even the framing of that question to Piers Morgan tells you how a lot of left-wing pundits and movements are just borrowing from what the far left did here. Which is why Piers Morgan, as someone who's ahead of the curve in that regard, has such an interesting vantage point to that. By the way, we're having some really important conversations here every day, so please be sure to hit the subscribe button and the notification bell to join the circle. But as we've seen this past election, that identity-obsessed version of the progressive left has been categorically rejected by the United States, and you see that with studies like this from Navigator Research that polled people who switched from Democrat to Republican voters. One respondent said something like, quote, "I think with their very liberal views and standpoint and acceptance to have different parties, different groups, religious groups, and or race, religion, I think that is where the party wants you to align with diversity and aligning with the Democrats. I think it's a bad thing," end quote. And I think you can trace that back to the same mistake the Democrats made when selecting their party ticket. Instead of a bottom-up populist wave that brought a leader from amongst the people, they foisted an establishment mouthpiece upon the people who just rejected it. And I think it's fair to say that they did the same thing with the political tokenism we saw in the party and the issues that they ran on.
And here's one example I'll give you, and this might not be popular in the room, but I don't care. And it's this. In America, the most popular ad that Trump did was about the whole issue of trans athletes in women's sport, which I've been very vocal about for years. I think it's completely unfair, unequal, and it shouldn't be happening. I also want equal rights and fairness for all trans people at the same time. There's nothing to do with being transphobic. It's about protecting women's rights. Trump did an ad, and all it said was, Kamala is for they, them. Trump is for you. They reckon it was the most effective 30-second political ad in modern times because it resonated with the public.
You say that, but the exit polls after that American election didn't talk about pronouns. They said people were voting on the economy. And
yeah, but that ad, they reckon, the New York Times, which is a liberal newspaper, they said that ad may have swung it by 2 to 3 points. Unbelievably effective.
Now, is that a commentary on that ad? I don't think so. It was simply the fact that Donald Trump channeled those brewing sentiments better and rode them into an electoral victory. Forget even the content of that ad because it was received as a rebellion against the identity politics of the left. You see what the Kamala Harris campaign put out, and that's exactly what you see. First, it was the so-called Man Enough advert that featured masculine men talking down to the audience that one of the manliest things you can do is vote for a woman, an appeal to identity. Another one calls on wives of conservative men to secretly vote for a woman at the ballot box. Again, an appeal to identity. But the common thread between all of that and something that Britain's left-wing movements need to understand is that these adverts were divorced from the genuine pains of the working class voter, and they were bound to fail from the get-go. What's sad is that you're seeing that failing playbook repeat itself in other parts of the world, and you see that when the host is giving the most dumbed down and sanitized version of what woke even means.
A lot of people would also say that the trans community out there are people who are fearful and need supported, and the idea of being woke isn't about being a fascist. It's about going through life instead of having your eyes closed, having your eyes open, and maybe just trying to be kind.
Do you even believe that?
I do.
Really?
I think there's a lot of people
Come
do.
on. That's not what woke means. Woke is people running around screaming hysterically about absolutely everything, and they want to dictate how people lead their lives. And we are a free democratic society. You should be able to lead your life how you want to lead it. Have the opinions you want to have. Have the right to live your life how you want to lead it.
Do you believe everything you say, or is there an element, Piers, of stirring the pot?
I do. I genuinely hate vegan sausage rolls. And by the way, so does everybody else, because their sales are bombs. I was right about that as well. Look, I do believe what I say. It's not like I don't just literally sit there and go, let me find something to wind up all the wokies, even though they are very easy to wind up. But I genuinely believe what I say. But again, I come back to, you might categorise my views as controversial. I don't. I genuinely think...
I just categorise some of your views as wrong. I don't think they're controversial.
Whoa.
In the same way that you said that I'm wrong.
OK. Let's test that theory. Let's test that theory. Which of my views do you think are so wrong?
I would say...
Patrick, how long have we got?
How long have we got?
He's running down the clock. You see my point?
See what I mean? There's no doubt that the word woke certainly did used to have a very noble meaning when it was used by civil rights activists in the 20th century. But that's simply not what the word means anymore. It's an obscenely racial and collective view of the world where, contrary to what Martin Luther King Jr. said, you almost are judged by the color of your skin, but in the opposite direction. And just like that, the modern Democratic Party sold this working class a bill of goods that was hopelessly disconnected from their true needs and woes, including the cost of living crisis, unemployment, lack of social mobility, and an illegal immigration crisis that was chipping away at their sense of security. And as they say, when people are afraid, they flock to a strong man that says he's got the tough answers. That's exactly why so many Americans flock to Donald Trump this time, but he's only a reactionary force to the failure of the left to live up to its working class credentials.
Well, interestingly, I would say that Trump won this time for 3 reasons. He won because people trusted him more on the economy and to fix the cost of living crisis. They trusted him more to fix the crisis on the southern border in America, where they got a genuine illegal immigration crisis. Nearly 10 million people have come in illegally in the last 4 years. But actually, he talked about this when he won. He represents to a lot of Americans a core of common sense, he called it. And I think I'm the same. You know, people say to me, oh, you're so controversial. I'm like, well, which of my opinions is actually that controversial?
So you think you're the voice of common sense?
I don't think my opinions are that controversial. I think that actually they're the opinions of the majority. When I was coming here today, the number of people who came up to me at the airport were like, Piers, we're right behind you. Keep talking the common sense. Am I near enough? I am actually Irish, by the way, just so you know. I've got Galway roots. My father was from Galway. So I do feel like I'm one of you, even if you'd rather I wasn't. So...
Now, if you want evidence of that, just look at the party platform of the Republicans this past election. Stronger borders, more isolationist foreign policy, ending needless wars, recognition of biological differences in men and women, and reducing waste and abuse in the government. Is that really right-wing or even political, or do you think that would just be center to maybe center-right? The answer to that question is the same answer for why a lot of the independent crowd swung to Donald Trump this time, because they just didn't recognize what had become of the left in this country. And I think that's a trajectory we're about to see play out in places like Canada and the UK in the coming few years. But let me know in the comments if you agree and share this video with people that have an important voice to add to this conversation. In the meantime, I do believe that the story of America over the last decade has a lot to teach the left-wing movements in other places for what not to do if they want to remain relevant among the common people.